Alright, so in this video, I am going to talk about the at least five, and I'm going to do some bonuses as well, ways to make your cold outreach better. So whether that is about how to automate it a little bit more, or things to include in your script, or for example, ways of delivery, all of that technical stuff is going to be contained in this video. This is going to be ideally for Instagram outreach, although some of the principles right here are going to be able to be applied, in other platforms as well, like LinkedIn, Facebook, or for example, maybe in WhatsApp, certainly Twitter, etc., 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 maybe even TikTok. It's basically at your or the way that you use your cold outreach, or the platform you use for your cold outreach. The first way, and the one that I found the most impactful for me, was to send a native VSL. That means a video sales letter that is not on Loom. So a lot of people send Loom videos, which is, it's fine. It's better than just a copy and paste message. But the next level is sending the Loom video as a downloadable, or rather as a video file in the chats, basically, so that they don't have to go outside the platform and they can just click on the chat, the video in the chat, and watch it right there. The reason why this works is that the prospect requires less friction, less effort to go through this kind of funnel, right? It's a lot more smoother. And there is a very big and well-known rule in basically marketing, online marketing, which is that if you take a prospect to another platform, you cool them off, whether because it is more friction or because they're just gonna bookmark this and do it later on. The thing here is that doing this native BSL, is going to increase the amount of people who actually go through their funnel and watch the video fully. And talking about the BSL, I want to say a couple of things that I think will be very useful for you. So the first one is, how do you personalize at scale, right? So that is a big question, and a lot of people don't know how to do it. And they are doing Loom videos for each person, which, I respect the hustle, but it's just not going to allow you to, scale really, if you don't want to do, 3 hours a day of, all, cold outreach and Loom videos just for sending 5 Loom videos. Like, it is really, really time consuming. So the way that you automate this is in the following way. So you're going to record a template, basically like a video that's going to be from start to finish, completely like if it was a normal BSL, okay? Make this the perfect BSL you can with, basically record that in your brain, so you don't have to like look to the side or, like look weird when you're saying it. Just remember it completely, okay? Practice it as if you were live dependent, okay? Once you know it for like, basically like your name, you're going to record it, and it's going to be a perfect BSL, okay? Once you have that on point, make sure, by the way, that in the script of that BSL, you only mention one point of personalization, okay? So for example, hey name, that is the only point of personalization that this BSL has, okay? Of course, there's other ways that you can do a little more personalization here, but I'm gonna tell you the basic one, and then you can figure out the rest. Okay, so once you have that video recorded, you are going to go then and record the audio for all of the people that you're going to record this Loom video to. Okay, so that means you're going to, for example, record on a separate file, in a voice recorder, the names of all the people. So you're going to say, hey name, how's it going? For example, hey Peter, how's it going? Hey James, how's it going? Hey Carter, how's it going? The reason why is because you're going to use the audio only, and you're going to basically import it in the template. Basically, if you think about it in the kind of software, editing software, you're going to have the video in the upper part of the screen, and then the audio in the lower part of the screen, right? So in the bottom, you're going to change the audio, but not the video, okay? The reason why we do this is because if we change the video, first of all, it's going to add a lot of complexity, because you're going to have to record the same video with the same lighting, the same settings, or everything, the same clothes even, so you don't, beginning with, hey name, how's it going? And then you could change, shirt and illumination, or, lighting, all this. So you're going to keep the same video. The video is going to remain the same. You're only going to change the initial part of the audio. This way, the video doesn't seem like basically it's cuts. There's no difference, and it seems like it's completely smooth. Of course, there's not going to be a lot of or it's not going to be fully aligned, specifically when they say their name. So for example, if I say in the template, hey James, and then on the, when I record a audio, I say, hey Williams. Of course, if you track a minute or second by second, you're going to see that it's not fully, aligned in the audio, but it doesn't matter, because it's just the first 3 seconds, maybe even 1 second actually of the Loom video. So you really don't have a problem there. A lot of people, when they're going to see on their phone, they're not going to notice it. Nobody has noticed it, for me at least. Nobody has told me, hey, this is a, pre-recorded something. Like, nobody has, okay? All of them told me, hey, I appreciate that you recorded this specifically for me. One quick thing that I forgot to mention, I'm just editing the video right now and I want to say this, is that when you're doing the, this approach of the personalization here and automating the personalization, you want to also, for example, the actual template where you speak, for example, this video that you're seeing right here in this part, it's the full screen, right? What you want to do is make this like a loom kind of style. So you, for example, in DaVinci Resolve, I just add a transform like effect, and then I make this like the image completely like a circle. Okay, basically I'm gonna try to be doing this in the editing process as well. So you can see it's gonna be a circle completely, and then you're going to put that as a layer on top of everything. So then because of that, you're gonna be able to put something below it, and it's gonna be easy for you. So for example, what I recommend you to do is to have at the bottom, at the absolute bottom, something like the, a screenshot of the profile of the person that you're reaching out to, and then on top the actual circle with your camera, and basically so that you can kind of automate or pretend essentially that you are doing this like a loom and you're screen sharing over their profile. I'm going to put here a screenshot of how the editing software looks like, and I'm gonna put some, basically for you to know what is the template and what is the thing that I added, okay? And I'm gonna basically put right on the screen an example of one. That way you have the perfect BSL and you only have to change the audio, okay? And now you can just record 500 audios for people, the name of the people, and then just import it to the editing software, do all the editing process. That's gonna take some time. I'm not gonna say it's not, because it is going to take some time, but it's way better than recording the same video, because, you have to get in the mood of recording, get the same lighting, get a good, shirt or looking good, for example. And then you also got to rehearse your script and then get it grown a bunch of times and then do it again. It just adds or removes a lot of complexity. And even with this, if you have a, VA, a virtual assistant, you can just send, those videos or these instructions to them, and they can do it in your behalf, basically as if you were doing it. Of course, you just have to provide them with the audio, although if you think about it, really, you can use some AI to basically clone your voice saying those names, and they can do that all the work themselves as if it was yourself. And I can imagine that later on there's going to be an N8N automation that's going to do all of that for yourself. So far I haven't found it yet, but I'm gonna keep looking for it. The next tip is about making an easier and faster to execute call to action, okay? CTA, call to action. So I see a lot of people who they usually say something like, if you're interested, book a call in this link right there, and they send the link in the exact call, in the exact chat, without them asking for it. And the thing is that this is a big ask, okay? And not a lot of people are going to proceed to booking a call immediately from there. So what you want to do is, for example, in the case that you're recording a selfie video or a Loom video, you can just tell them, hey, listen, if that sounds of interest to you, you can just send me, a thumbs up in the chat, or you can do something like, okay, send me the word okay in the chat, and I'm gonna send you the, for example, the link for our appointments, or I'm gonna send you more information about this, right? Something like that is easier to digest and easier for them to go, okay, let me just send this real quick, and it's not going to be a problem. For example, the CTA that I use is, hey, send me a thumbs up in the chat and I'm gonna send you more information about this, or hey, just drop me the word okay in the chat and I'm gonna send you more information about this. The next one, although it's gonna sound repetitive, is to be as short as humanly possible. So imagine that someone is, pointing a gun in your head and is telling you, hey, listen, like, you have to do this in the most concise way possible, otherwise you're gonna be killed or your family is gonna be killed. Think about it like that and really try to distill all the information of your basically program, or just enough for, getting their, kind of like their interest, almost like putting some bread for the, what is this bird? Like I don't know what is the name of this bird, but you put some bread to this, bird. I don't know the name of this bird, but you put it there and they're going to start to come to you, okay? Just enough bread. So for example, the shortest BSL that I have recorded is 90 seconds. You can imagine that the amount of information that I had to include there was really fundamental. I don't really know exactly what was the exact script or anything like that, but it was really, really basically compressed. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to speak at the, speed of light, for example, or that you're going to, sound weird or anything like that. You just have to do or give enough information so that they can go, well, this sounds like something that could be of interest to me. Let me just go one step, down the funnel. And of course, you include here in the CTA, the thumbs up in the chat, or okay, the word okay. And it's almost like they are asking you for a little more information, a little more crack, a little more, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything else, but just a little more of that you are giving. All right, so the next tactic is to use the highest quality prospect list, basically. So especially with this type of outreach that is hyper personalized, you don't want to do it with anyone that you can, contact. You want to really be selective in the people you reach out to with this type of outreach, because it's really intensive and it requires a lot of effort from your side. So because of that, you want to make sure that every single person you reach out to in this way are super super fit or super fit for your for your program or whatever it is that you do. People who, for example, seen that they could have some money, people who seen that they could really need your product, for example. And of course, it's going to take you more time to kind of sort through the leads, and you might need a BA, for example, to do this, with, of course, that you train for them to discern which person is high quality and which person is the highest quality, and you want to get the highest quality people. The next tactic is to distribute your outreach across multiple accounts. Okay, so even if you're doing, for example, 10 videos a day, if you can, I would recommend you to do 10 on one day on one account, the next 10 on the second account, the next 10 on the third account, and then the next 10 on the fourth account, and then the fifth day another 10 in the first account again. And you could basically cycle through them so that you have the least amount of basically volume in your accounts, so that you don't risk getting them banned or getting them with some sort of flag. Okay, the next thing, or some tactical stuff when it comes to your actual workspace, for example. So in this case, I would recommend you to have a good phone, so an iPhone, for example, or a high-end whatever, Samsung or Android phone, like something that has a good camera on it. Apart from that, and of course the camera is very important, because you're not only going to be recording just the template for your Loom video, but then you're going to do the automation that I told you before, and of course, if you want to do it once, you may as well do it in the best way possible, right? Like, you don't have to go crazy with a professional camera, but iPhone camera, high-end Samsung or whatever Android phone works or does the job. But also, apart from that, because you're going to be using more the audio, like in the actual time that you're going to be using, compared to the camera, the audio is going to be more. So what I would recommend you to do is buy a microphone. Okay, so you can buy, I believe, I'm not completely sure of this, but I believe there are some microphones that are not able to connect to your phone, and there are other microphones that are able to do that. For example, I have a microphone that I can connect to the computer as a USB, the big rectangle one, not the ones that go to the phone, but like the big rectangle one. So I had to buy a adapter. That way, the audio that I record from my camera, or from my phone, makes it 10 times better, because I have now a microphone that it's really, really good, and it's very cheap microphone. It's the Razer Siren Mini. You can buy online. You can also buy, I would recommend you to buy the basically I was gonna say monitor arm, but no, the microphone arm, basically, and that is going to increase the quality of the audio a lot more. This way, for example, what I am doing is I am recording selfie videos, or I'm recording the audios that I'm gonna then use to basically modify or do the template here, and I don't need to, for example, record more, because I have a good quality audio here. So that's kind of what I would recommend you to do. Increasing the quality of that is going to really help you with not only the perception that you have to your clients, but also just the overall enjoyment of who you are. It just increases your self-esteem when it comes to cold outreach, as opposed to just doing on a recording the video on a potato. The next tip is about the timing that you reply to the prospects that show interest. Okay, so I see a lot of people who they want to do some appointment setting, but they don't want to, for example, check their phone first thing in the morning, right? Because they want to have this beautiful morning routine. Or people who just are lazy and they don't want to watch their phone, for example, right? If you are really serious about booking appointments and making money from this, you really need to be attentive to your phone almost 24/7, right? Like, if you're not asleep, you can check your phone. So what I would recommend you is to reply to all the prospects, all the inquiries that you have in less than 5 minutes, maximum 5 minutes, maybe 10, of course, but 5 minutes maximum. And that is going to increase the people that actually show the interest and move down the funnel. And that is exactly what you need, right? Like, you need actually people who go fast. And if you start to take more time, maybe take 20 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours to actually get to the point where, they can book an appointment, you're going to lose them at that point. So you want to do this as fast as possible. The next strategy is to have a proper follow-up system, okay? And a proper follow-up sequence. So I see a lot of people who they just start doing outreach and they don't really have, an idea, they don't really have a system set, and they're just, going about the outreach just, really without an idea. So what you really want to do is plan out all of this strategy like a test, and you're going to do the next 100 reach outs, and you're going to change nothing, okay, until you get those 100, and you're going to analyze the data. And then once you have the data, you're going to then, do something about it, and can either be to change it or can be to stay the same because it is pretty, profitable, right? So here's the thing. When it comes to the cold outreach, follow-ups are really, really, really important. And there are so many ways to follow up. So you can either do, for example, send memes, send voice messages, send, selfie videos, even send text-based messages, send GIFs. There are a variety of things that you can do. So what I would recommend you to do is to have at least 4 messages for people who did not reply to your initial message, which can be like the one about how I told you that, you do a CTA to move them down the funnel. So for example, you can say something like, hey, this is what I do, this is what I have. I have these free lead magnets. You want this? Or if it's of interest to you, just throw me a thumbs up in the chat, right? If they do not reply to that message, you follow them up with at least 4 times, maximum 4 times, actually. Now, if they ask you for more information, they send you a thumbs up in the chat or said, yeah, go ahead, send me more information, for example. But they did not reply to basically the information that you sent, for example, you can send even up to 9 times, minimum 7 times, but ideally 9, even 10 times, okay? Of course, not every day, but over the next 2 months, 3 months, okay? Now, what I recommend you to do is to cycle the type of follow-up. So you can start with, for example, it doesn't really matter if it's for the initial message or the other message, it doesn't really matter, but you can just modify the message, for example. So I would recommend you to send a meme follow-up, which is going to be an example right here, another example right here, another example right here, another example right here. These are just examples of the memes that I've used in the past or I'm using currently. So a meme, maybe around 24 hours after the initial message or after they basically ghosted you, maybe 48 hours afterwards or after that, you send a voice message. Then after that, you send a text message or text-based message. And then after that, maybe you send a GIF or you send another meme, okay? Now, you don't have to send voice messages, but it just increases the amount of people who reply to your message, okay? So, it's not necessary. It's going to take a lot of your time, but also, you can just, I don't really have a way still to automate this with AI, but I'm sure there's going to be a way. And if you know something, let me know. I'm going to be experimenting with N8N. But so far, I'm doing it manually. And the same thing with the other, when they, move down the funnel and they ask for more information, you also want to follow up more time, right? So saying something like, again, meme, text-based, or meme, voice message, text-based, GIF, meme. Now you don't do again other voice messages because it's going to take you a lot of time. But, meme, text, GIF, meme, text, GIF, meme, all the way like that. And you can just crop the text messages or the memes to fit that specific part. For example, in the initial part, if they did not reply to it, you can just say something like, hey, did you get a chance to watch the video that I sent you, right? Or the other one, if you ask them, hey, do you want to book an appointment? You can just basically tell them, hey, did I scare you off or did life just get crazy? And very, very importantly is to keep track of all of these interactions, okay? So every single person that you follow up, you have to find a way to, and I'm gonna actually, do some walks through the database that I have right now that I think is pretty solid when it comes to that. But you have to find a way, maybe you could use the one that I use for keeping the prospects there, like moving them down the funnel. Okay, you don't really need a CRM for this. specifically with this type of outreach, because you don't need hundreds and thousands of like sales. I'm gonna share with you one, but really make sure that you are diligent when it comes to moving people down the funnel and basically classifying them in the right way, and updating their profile on the database, okay, on Google Sheets. All right, so the next two are gonna be the last one. So first of all is reciprocity, okay? Trigger some reciprocity, and the way that you do this is with a lead magnet. So the way that you trigger reciprocity is by giving them something first for free, and then they're going to feel basically in owe to you. They're gonna feel that they owe you something, okay? And of course, I don't have to say why that can be helpful, because they can give you a chance. They can, hop on a call and see what is your program, right? So the way you do this is a lead magnet. And I'm not talking about, hey, I have this free ebook. Hey, I have this free course. Hey, I have this free video with an opt-in, right? You don't want to do any of that stuff in the call outreach, because it's not going to get any responses, any people that are interested, right? What I recommend you to do, and this is my key, I'm going to be sharing right now my unfair advantage, which is doing work, like not being fucking lazy. That is my advantage, okay? I am not lazy. So I have been able to get top tier prospects basically on a conversation, on a DM with me, just because I did some work beforehand, or I was offering to do some work for free. And just to give you the level of, basically the level that I went for my first cold outreach system that was successful, was saying, hey, listen to the prospect, I'm going to get you one client for free. You do not have to pay me anything for that client. All of the profit is going to be for yourself. All right. Once and only once I bring you that client, I'm going to talk about what is my actual paid offer and the way that I actually make my money. You can imagine that this offer, this lead magnet, is literally one of the most, if not the best, lead magnet that I have ever heard about. So you can imagine that the effectiveness of this is top tier, is next level. And there's always ways to do that for yourself. So for example, I am doing some cold outreach for the business coach that I'm working for. Basically, he's my boss. And the way that I'm using this for him is that I'm reaching out to people saying that I want to do a content, basically content audit of their content, of course, the profile. And I'm going to come to the call with all these points that I have gathered. And I'm going to tell them, hey, listen, I believe based on everything that I have learned from, the RAF, these are the things that you should change. Your CTA on your videos is poor. Your, for example, profile is not really clear. The cadence of your videos, you're taking too long between videos to post. You want to post maybe a little bit less edited videos, but more constant. Like, this actual like hyper specific, advice. And do this for free, okay? Realistically, what you want is that the prospect, when they hear your lead magnet, is like, wow, like this is actually a good one. Like, you want that kind of reaction as opposed to another ebook or whatever, another of all this stuff. Like, I don't care. The key is to make work, do some work, okay, and actually deliver that work, which is the hardest part of all. And now the last outreach strategy to make your outreach better is to see all of it in the language of business, which is numbers, okay? So it is of utmost importance that basically you think about cold outreach not as doing outreach in general, but rather think about doing outreach as a batch, okay? Individual batch of 100 outreaches that then you're going to analyze the data of what is the result from that, and then you're going to improve your outreach and you're going to do more work. You're going to try a new hypothesis if it didn't work well, or you're going to continue doing the same if it worked. Or if you want to optimize it, you want to modify just one part at a time, and then you're going to do for another 100 and just go in iterating one batch at a time. And if, for example, you have a system that worked real well, and you have a hypothesis that it was going to work better, and then you underperform, you're going to go back to this this main one, and you're going to try maybe another hypothesis, and maybe that one is going to be more effective, okay? This is a process of basically years. And then if you do this for long enough and you build a system, you're going to be able to get to the point where you can, get 1 to 2 clients, maybe three clients for every 100 outreaches that you send. Yeah, I'm talking like this is actually serious. And for that, you will need to basically record all the data. And that's why you need to keep a basically workspace, or specifically in the database, super clean every single day. At the end of the day, you're going to modify it and improve or update all of the prospects that you reach out on that day, and all of the prospects that you follow up that day. And some of the metrics, the main metrics that I will look at myself are going to be from the people who saw your outreach, how many basically showed interest. Okay. Now, from all the people who showed interest, and by the way, for the first one, potentially on Instagram, you're not going to be able to get that data unless you do like a workaround, which, for example, for myself, is that I'm asking business owners, because I'm reaching out to fitness coaches, I am asking them, hey, is it the right place to ask questions? And that's going to guarantee me that I am reaching out to only people who I am out of their request box, which that, and this is the point of it, is going to guarantee me that I am only reaching out to people who will see the pitch, okay? Because, if I just send it over and I land on the request box, there's no really way that I can know if someone watched the video or not, specifically if someone used the native BSL. But usually for you, if you are a coach, probably you can do this with a, seat or like clients, like someone who does not own a business, because, if you just reach out to a medic or an athlete, for example, or an, lawyer, and you say, hey, is this the right place to ask questions? It's going to be weird, for example, or you give them a compliments, they're probably not going to do it. So sometimes in this, DM outreach probably will not be able to, see some of the metrics or so, or the first metric of that part, which is from how many people watch the video or watch the pitch, how many show interest. You might not be able to fully see this unless you find a workaround like I did. That is the main one that I would use. The second one is from how many people show interest, how many of those book an appointment. So you're going to get that percentage and the actual numbers, for example, like, 3 show interest, only 1 book an appointment, okay? And you're going to get that number right there. And then from there, you're going to go for the next, how many people that book an appointment, show up to the appointments. And then lastly, from how many people show up to the appointment, were close on the deal, okay? Were close or were brought to the program. That is all I wanted to share with you right now. I hope that all of these tactics were of use. I hope this video is going to perform well, because I'm basically revealing all the secrets here. But yeah, hopefully you like it. See you later. Bye.